all I heard, I think, it was you.
Yeah.
He said, she's passed out. She passed out.
No,
Right?
she passed. I watched. She literally just passed out on the floor, dropped the rags, bleeding from her neck, just passed out. I'm like,
And I knew exactly.
all right, what's up, y'all? Ruben Davis, Future Doc here with my boy Darius Lacey, Future Doc, and this is the second to last day, or really the last day of orientation, and so they put us in the simulation center, and boy. What a time. We had a time. Like, this is like immediately afterwards. We just finished like 15 minutes ago.
Got up to like 100 beats per minute.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Yo, it was crazy. So we were in the same group too. So I was like, all right, let me just bring Darius into this so we could talk about what just transpired. So let's keep in mind, we are medical students who haven't even taken any classes yet. Okay, we did pre-matric, but that don't count. We have, because I've never worked in a medical center before. Have you worked in a medical center before?
I have, but not what we were doing today.
Right. So we haven't really worked in like a medical, trauma center or nothing like that. Doing scribe. Even if we were just scribe work, we haven't done anything ourselves, right? So we have no prior experience, no prior knowledge, and they decide, you know what? We're gonna put the med students in different scenarios and make them figure it out.
Just go for it.
So
all they do.
No. This is our wheel. This is a joint video. Go ahead.
Like all they did was just give us a sheet, of just like the prompt pretty much, like whatever the situation was, a car accident or something like that. And they just threw us in. That was like very basic information.
Yeah, and the sheet, the folder that they gave us with like some of the information, like I only had showed up like 5 minutes before, so not really knowing what's going on. Kind of have an idea because some of the M2s kind of hinted to it when we were in pre-matric, but still like not really knowing. So everybody's kind of confused. They just hand us this folder. We're like, I'm reading through it. It has like a HPI in it. Some like little soap note essentially about the patient. But still not necessarily knowing. So we get into we have like a group of 5, was it? I think it was 5. Yeah, group of 5. And we go into the simulation center, and there's Dr. So-and-so, I forget her name. She gave us like a little debrief, like sort of like, this is the situation you're going into. So our first situation was a car accident. All right, it was a car accident that people injured, and we are basically like the first on the scene. We're at medical school. Maybe we're just driving by essentially, and we see what's happening, and we go out to assist. And our job was to have like our task like situational awareness, like we're supposed to focus on communication, and at the end of it, we had to have a list, like a triage list of who needs to go first, because it was like only one ambulance apparently, and only one person can go like at a time, or like, so who's basically going to get in the ambulance first to go to the hospital that's like 35 minutes away.
We're like in this rural area, technically.
Yeah,
like,
that's the scenario.
Yeah, so it was like nobody really around, just us, one ambulance. The next hospital was like 35 minutes away, and they can only take one person at a time.
Yeah, we had to make a list of who needed to go first. And we're like, okay, all right, shouldn't be too bad. And then like somebody like over the intercom, it's like, it felt like Squid Games. Somebody over the intercom was like, all right, now you may start your, scenarios, your simulation, whatever. You may enter the room. I think that's what they say. And, it's quiet. And then as soon as we open the door, all you hear is screaming and wailing and blood and all this other stuff. And I'm like,
people just walking around all confused.
As soon as we get in, I'm like, okay. We kind of made like a small plan before we went in, because we had like 10 seconds before we went in, and we was like, okay, we're gonna try to maybe divide up, divide and conquer. Let's see, everybody, pick a patient, figure out what's going on. We come back and talk about it and make the list. Completely went to trash. Went straight to the garbage can as soon as we walked in, because it was chaotic, and it was supposed to be, but it was like chaos, bro. Like, you want to talk a little bit about it too?
So like when I walked in, like the first person I went to, this woman, just walking around with a hand on her neck, with paper towel in between. I was like, oh, you're just bleeding from your neck. So I pretty much stuck with her for the whole time, and just having to deal with her, but then like hearing this other man screaming, and then everybody talking with another person and somebody's just walking around like kind of confused. It just gets really chaotic. I was pulled all kinds of directions while also just trying to be with my patient, but also like, oh, we got to make a triage list.
And keeping in mind that we have no prior knowledge or any experience with understanding how to handle a trauma situation. Like, we're just in there like just confused. Like, I went to the first patient like that was like right in front of us. Well, also keep in mind that these are standardized patients, so they're essentially actors who are trained in like a medical stuff, like medical incidences, history, like, you know, trained in like how doctors should interact with patients. But they also like are very knowledgeable about like different conditions and disease, like whatever role they're playing, they play it well. And they be pulling on the heartstrings. So the patient that I was like attending to, like trying to get more information about, like she's just crying. She's like, I think I lost my baby. Like, that's the first thing she says to me. I say, hey, because I come up to her like, ma'am, my name is Ruben. I'm a medical student. Like, I'm here. Like, can you tell me your name? She's like, my name is Sage, and I think I lost my baby. I'm like,
Because I didn't even know that because it was so chaotic.
It was so chaotic.
It was so chaotic. I don't even know what's going on that side of the room. I was like, I knew what was happening on my side of the room, and that was it.
Yeah, that was the crazy part, because we had this plan like come back together, everybody talk about it, but I don't even know what was going on with his patient or that other patient. There was this one random woman that's kind of running back and forth, and I thought my two patients was about to fight at one point or like maybe get into it because my patient like was like crying. She's like bleeding. She has this towel of blood. She's like, I'm bleeding, and I'm like, you know, she keeps asking me like, can you save my baby? Like, very convincingly, like she's like crying. I'm like, oh my God. She's like, can you save my? I'm like, and then, you know, that's a trap. That's a trap. You're not supposed to say that. And so I'm like, knowing that, I'm like, people are on the way. We're gonna do everything we can. That's like what I'm trying to say. And then the other person comes over. She's like, is she okay? And then she starts pointing at her. She's the one. I'm like, ah. I was like, Lord, it was so much going on. Like, I don't even know what was going on with your patient. What was going on with your patient?
So my patient, she was the sister of the man on the ground screaming, and she was actually more worried about him. So I actually had to like pull her away and try to figure out, you know, like try to get her like to tell me what was going on with her neck.
Yeah.
And she was still, you know, trying to push me away to her brother, because he was over there screaming. I tried to
They're such good actors, man. I'm trying to tell you, they're so good.
And I was trying to convince her that, you know, he was being taken care of. Somebody was over there with him. And then I fell for the trap. I eventually left her. And I went over to the patient once I thought she was like, okay, you know, because she was up and alert. She was talking to me. She described like what was happening. She told me everything that happened with the car crash, at least. She told me that your patient actually ran into them. Honestly.
See, it's a little tea in there too. It's crazy.
It was wild. But as soon as I turned around, all I heard, I think it was you, who said, she's passed out.
No, she passed. I watched. She literally just passed out on the floor, dropped the rags, bleeding from her neck, just passed out. I'm like,
and I knew exactly which patient it was, so I went back.
And eventually, all I see is Darius just, and then turn around and, you know, immediately puts his hand on her neck like to hold the compress. You know what I'm saying? Darius did his thing on that one though, but it was crazy. So, and this will backtrack a little bit. There were 4 patients in the room. There was just 4, right? There was just 4. There was the one I was with, the pregnant woman, 6-week pregnant. These are all fake patients, by the way, but, you know, pregnant woman. There was another woman who didn't appear to be injured. She was kind of just floating around, just kind of checking on people, but, you know, she seemed fine, I think.
Later on, she started like having really bad mental issues. She had a brain injury.
See, I didn't know that. It was so chaotic. Yeah. And then the other person was his patient on the neck, and then that patient's brother was on the floor screaming, wailing, I mean crying really intently, just on the ground, just like really just going in, like just painful. I was like, and I only know that because I had I asked one of the other, you know, people in our group to like tend to this patient so I can try to like go around and try to like figure out what's going on, and, you know, just trying to see what's going on with other patients. So I went over there to him, and boy, he was going in. And I was like, oh my gosh, what can I do? I don't have nothing. He was like, he had like a rib injury. Like he might have been bleeding internally or something. But I think at the very least, he probably had some broken ribs or something. Like, that's how he was portraying it. Like, he was in excruciating pain, just yelling. yeah, that was really difficult.
That was.
And you can even see now, like 15 minutes, I don't even know what was going on with some of the other patients because it was so chaotic, and then they just like moved us to another room. So this was just the first room, and this was our first room, and we just like going through this crazy trauma experience. Like literally, my blood pressure was high.
My blood pressure is getting high again, just talking about it.
I wish I had my watch on. My watch was dying before I left the house, so I left it. I wish I had my watch on to see how high mine was, because his got up to 100. Mine was probably past that.
Yeah,
It was crazy. And then the second room was not as traumatic, but it was still it was better. It was intense. I think as a group, we performed better. We communicated a little better. Mostly probably because it wasn't like chaotic. But also we kind of like learned a little bit from the first one. Like, okay, let's try to delegate a little bit, or make sure we're communicating as a group, telling each other what's going on. And so this patient, it was, so this, the patient was actually a dummy as well. And yeah, he just had a appendectomy 2 days ago. He's experiencing some nausea, he's been vomiting, and just like difficulty breathing.
I wasn't even on the list that they gave us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and even before that, let me back up the debrief, because they gave us like a little, intro, like of what's supposed to happen when we go in there. Same sort of task, situation awareness, figuring out, communication, all that type stuff. I was about to wait. What did she say for this patient? What was our goal as well? What was our
goal was get vitals.
And the information on the paper. That's what I wanted to say. The information on the paper. She was like, "This is wrong."
Yeah.
So they purposely gave us wrong information, and we were supposed to figure out what was wrong and fix it, and like get all the vitals, take like some social history, medical history, like little, the things you put like in a soap note. Try to figure all that out in 7 minutes. It was crazy. You want to talk about this one a little bit?
So I was like the leader of this one, but when I went in there, I didn't even like see the room, honestly. There was I don't know how many times like Naomi told me about the stethoscopes that were there. I was looking at the monitor. I couldn't make sense of any of the numbers. I was honestly just blanked out. I was just over there talking with the patient about his pain. I kept asking him like the same questions over and over in a different way, trying to get like a different answer, but he couldn't tell me anymore. But luckily his wife was there, and I did pick up that she had a lot of good information, and I knew she didn't want to leave, which is why I told you to like go talk with her and see what more information you can get. Because I knew I was also supposed to start doing a physical exam, just to try to like figure out like how bad his pain was, since he couldn't tell me like how much it hurt. But I never got around to it because I really just
it was really. It's like, it's so hard because in these situations we have no experience. So it's like, what do we do? Yeah. What are we allowed to do? What are we not allowed to do? They just like threw us in the fire to like basically just kind of learn by failing, essentially.
Pretty much.
And yeah, I think that one was good because it taught us too that like the patient's family is a great resource, because he wasn't really able to speak for himself, but she was very knowledgeable about, everything about the patient. And like the patient was a dummy. You know what I'm saying? It was somebody in a microphone in another room talking through the microphone and the dummy, so that we can get like vital signs for the dummy, if that makes sense. And we were, Darius did a great job, like, leading that one of like, okay, yeah, maybe you should, take the wife and, take her over and try to get a lot of the history we were supposed to fill in, like the wrong information, make it right. But she didn't want to leave his side. It was kind of difficult getting information from her because she was so concerned about him. And then he started decompensating at one point. Early on too, I would say before that, we did notice like, okay, he was having difficulty breathing. It was painful to breathe. And, we're looking at his vital signs. His O2 stats started to drop below 90. So like, okay, all right, let's get him some oxygen. So we got him some oxygen. And then started to rise a little bit to like 93 or something. And, he started to get a little stable, but his heart rate started to, go up, and then he fainted. And so we're like, what are we supposed to do? Because he's not crashing.
But the thing is, we had the right answer, because we were like, we were going to go get somebody. We just didn't know how.
Right, we didn't know how to do it. We were like, yeah.
Are we just allowed to leave?
Yeah.
Or
because she's saying he's in pain. She's like, can you help him with his pain? Like, yeah, we're going to talk to our attending physician about getting him some pain medication and see what's going on with that. And she was like, okay, but none of us could figure out how to do it. And then once we got out to the debrief afterwards, she was like, there was a phone in the room.
It was like, oh.
So we could have basically just went over to the phone, mimicked, calling somebody like, hey, can you come check out patient so-and-so? But none of us saw the phone in the room.
Completely blind to all of our surroundings.
Blind, just deer in headlights. Because there was a stethoscope literally on like the monitor right next to him.
Right next to him.
And it took like Naomi noticed like behind him, like, it's a stethoscope right there. He's like, I just didn't know.
6 minutes into a 7-minute simulation. So
yeah, then the next simulation we had, and mind you, also all of these we only had 7 minutes in the room.
Yeah.
So just imagine the chaos. Then the next scenario we had, we were supposed to go in there. It was a patient in the room, for dizziness. We didn't really have much more than that. We had like his medical history of like hypertension. We had his like current vital signs and stuff like that. But we didn't really have much else to go on. And we were just supposed to come up with 5, different diagnoses. So like do a differential. And so we get in the room. I'm thinking the guy's gonna kind of like know what's going on. He's a little dizzy, whatever, but they know that they're there. We get in the room, he's like, where am I? I'm like, huh? Oh my God. And it was a lot going on because we're like trying to figure it out. And then I realized too, that one, I think we did a little worse in that one because we were all kind of talking over each other. Like I would ask a question and then somebody would ask another question, like kind of right afterwards. And I'm like, clearly he's confused. Let's try to like ground him a little bit. And yeah, that one, I feel like that was probably our worst one, but I think we came up with some good differentials.
And that was another thing. Like, I honestly completely forgot about the differentials. I was just in it because as soon as I saw he was confused, I was just like, oh, I got to figure out like how to make him comfortable and make sure that he's able to give us like correct information and stuff. But
yeah, I feel like that was one thing. Because I feel like that was the one thing we could do, we all kind of leaned into the empathy side and trying to like be caretakers instead of like, I guess, the doctors, like trying to figure out the science side. We just lean into the empathy side because that's really all we could do. Like, okay, he's trying to sit up. I'm like, you need me to sit the bed up for you? What I'm saying? Oh, you feel nauseous? Let's get this pan for you, the bucket for you. So if you need to throw up in there, at the same time also trying to ask questions. And we didn't really do the differential until we left. But for me, like I did have it in mind when we first got in there. As soon as he said where am I, I was like, okay, stroke. That was like my first impression. Like, okay, he's confused, dizziness. Maybe he's had a small stroke or something like that. Yeah. And then once we went out, I feel like the debrief though. I think that was the best debrief for me because the doctor was so like knowledgeable. She was like just giving us all this information about differentials. When we would say like, could it be this? She was like, no, because X, Y, and Z. And we would say this. She's like, yes, exactly, because just like how she was like doing it and just dicing it up so fast. Like she just knew it all. Like that was really dope. Yeah. What about you? What was your feelings for the whole experience, or even just that last one? If you want to talk about that one.
No, the last one I probably shut down for the last one. I'm not even gonna lie. I was trying to figure out what my role was. Everybody was kind of just talking, and I was like, is this patient breathing okay now? Because like in the last room, I was just thinking like how I miss, all the vitals and all the like stuff that was very obvious. Yeah. So
I will say that one, there was no vitals in that room though.
Exactly.
They kind of gave it to us in advance.
So,
yeah.
I was just in my head in that one, honestly, which also taught me that I have to learn how to like not be able to take stuff from patient to patient. I gotta be able to like acknowledge that mistake in the beginning and then
bounce back,
get ready. Yeah, exactly. Bounce back, get ready for my next patient. So
yeah, but definitely some lessons learned.
Lots of lessons. Lots of lessons.
But I would say for me, it was very exhilarating, even though it was scary, but it's like, I want to do this type stuff. Like I really want to be able to go in a room and be knowledgeable about the different conditions and diseases and things that somebody could be going through and help them, overcome that, continue to, try to use that empathy side, but also have the science side and the doctoring side of like, okay, you're having these symptoms. Okay, let's get them some medicine. Get them to do this, get that, and really take care of people. So yeah, I think that was a great like sort of reinforcer. But yeah, that's all. I just wanted to let y'all know about this video and kind of document this for myself, just kind of remembering this experience for later on when we're actually in our third year clerkships, going through this same thing, but for real.
When we're in our fourth years, just applying for residencies and watching this back, it's going to be...
Exactly. It's going to be like, wow, we didn't know nothing.
We did not.
You know, and just kind of see the growth, just document the growth. So yeah, thanks Darius for coming through, being a part of this video. You want to shout out any socials or anything? He's a very private man.
I am a very private man. Y'all don't need to follow me. It's okay.
But comment down below, like, you know, if y'all have experienced this, like, while y'all are in med school, if you are a med school student, or, you know, anything you're looking forward to in these kind of scenarios, any questions for either of us. You know, I'll relay the questions to Darius.
I'll come on and answer any questions.
Yeah, and you know, if you want to see Darius back again in another video,
just let me know.
You know, like that, push that comment button, like, comment, and subscribe. Appreciate y'all watching. Future Docs. Out, sir.